to the next topic with this because the man who left Arsenal, Unai Emery, is beating Arsenal in the semi-finals,
Yeah.
and then is beating Man United, which finished second in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Unai Emery, was he the guy? Guendouzi said Unai Emery was the best coach he ever had.
Yeah.
You can go see. Like, this is mad.
It is, and the funny thing is let's see, what do the two guys have in common? Thomas Tuchel and Unai Emery, both winning the European Championships this year, the major European Championships, club championships, I should say. What do they have in common? They both were sacked by PSG. That has nothing to do with really anything, but it is kind of a funny thing to think about when you have this managerial carousel that seems to always happen, and it happens at places like PSG. It happens at places like Arsenal. And hell, I mean, Mauricio Pochettino might be out at PSG too. So it's kind of like you got to give somebody time. Give somebody time to build a culture, right? A culture doesn't happen day one. So I'm with you there. Do I know if Unai Emery was the guy at Arsenal? I don't. But let's just say, he just brought a first trophy to a town of 50,000 and the Yellow Submarine that has been kind of one of the more interesting teams in La Liga over the years.
But you talk about like building a culture and keeping your manager, but would you keep Ollie? I wouldn't keep Ollie at Man United. I'm going to say it. I wouldn't keep Ollie at Man United. If I were Man United, I'd straight up get Antonio Conte.
I mean,
if he's available, Man United needs to get Conte.
Yeah.
I think he'd win. I think he'd win at Man United.
I just see. I don't know enough. I don't know enough about kind of his person-to-person managerial style, but obviously from a tactical standpoint, I mean, he's still young.
The wing backs. Oof.
Yeah. It just
plays so well, and maybe he'd bring Lukaku. Lukaku would go to Man United. That Lukaku and Conte. But Cavani's there. I get you. Yeah.
I mean, but Ole Gunnar. So I mean, his managerial CV is what? Mold, right? Molde in Norway, where he actually did, I believe, cross paths with Erling Haaland for a little while. But aside from that, you're the baby-faced assassin. I mean, I just know him for his goals. And a hell of a player, but do I think he's the guy? One thing's for sure, and we're getting a little bit off on a tangent here.
Yeah.
One thing is for sure, if you're Manchester United, you're not going to find another Sir Alex Ferguson. Fergie, it's just not going to happen. To think that period of time is going to replicate itself, and you're going to walk into the promised land and have all of the things you had with Fergie. It's just not going to happen again. It's going to look different. It's going to feel different, and hell, it might be more volatile than it was with Fergie. But he was given the time clearly until he earned the respect. He faked it until he made it, right? And build that culture. And I mean, it's being built from the ground up too.
It's a different day and age, though. Players are very empowered, and a coach back then they had much more power in the dressing room, I feel. And now with social media, players expose a lot, and I don't know, it's different times. I feel like the change had an impact on Mourinho. It had an impact on Wenger a bit. Yeah. But I wanted to highlight two players in Villarreal, and I think they're the two catalysts to the Europa League win, and that is Gerard Moreno. Santi Cazorla said he was world class, and that is facts. Gerard Moreno is a really good striker. He has 7 goals in 12 games in the Europa League. That is good.
Yeah.
In which I feel he scored 2 goals in the semifinals.
Yeah.
Or was it in the no?
You might be right about that. I know he's been nothing but.
He scored in the final though. And Dani Parejo, he leaves Valencia and goes on for free to Villarreal, and Santi Cazorla leaves. Dani Parejo replaces Santi Cazorla with all that pressure on a free, and does a fantastic job. And Coquelin stopped Bruno Fernandes. He was marking Bruno Fernandes on his life. Like, Bruno Fernandes couldn't do anything. And Coquelin is another player that was cheap.
Yeah.
He was cheap.
Unfortunately, Coquelin may have just given the blueprint for stopping Bruno Fernandes in the Euros to France and Germany. So I hope they're wrong for your sake.
It won't happen. It won't happen. It won't happen.
Well, I'll jump on top of that there, because there were some young guys that were in the mix, and Yeremy Pino at 18 years old actually been scoring from some pretty good goals for them this year. I think 6 or 7 goals in his first year, first professional year with them. And he became the youngest UEFA Europa League champion ever, at 18 years old. And seeing him lift the trophy must have been pretty awesome, because that's an academy that is up and coming. It's an academy that actually, between him, Pino, and there's another guy, Nino, and I think they both have very similar last names, but both of them have gotten a whole lot of time this year. And Alex Baena, who's done very, very well. But there's one other that I'll just jump on there, because he didn't get to play a part against Manchester United, but he was vital for them against Arsenal. To not see a Samuel Chukwueze in that final was just devastating for me, because there was this possibility that he might be healthy, but he was stretchered off in the second leg against Arsenal. And this is a kid that didn't have the best of his years, but ended up really kind of peaking at the end of the year during championship season, right when you needed it most. And he got them to that final, helped get them to that final. It just sucked, for lack of a better term, to not be able to see him in that. But the smiles afterwards, that's what you're here for.
True. It was a good Europa League final. Like, the whole anxiety with the penalties, nobody missing. Like, I'm not gonna judge De Gea for missing the penalty, but I'm gonna judge De Gea for not saving one.
Yeah. I'm there. But yeah.
He should. I'm gonna say he should shoot better, but he should save one of the penalties. So.
Yeah. Well, I got one more thing to say. Because I was thinking of Gerard Moreno as a possible Harry Kane replacement at Tottenham. And then I started thinking a little more about Tottenham. And I thought of the guy that, if you see, you probably saw on Twitter, the photo circulating around with Juan Foyt. I think he played fullback for them, and also some center back this year, with him bloodied up, and he had his nose all stuffed up and blood coming out of the nose. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Well, he put in a ridiculous kind of warrior-like performance. Probably could have had a red card at some point on Luke Shaw, I think it was. But ultimately, I mean, you see that picture, and then you remember, this is a guy that was cast off by Mourinho at Tottenham, basically deemed surplus to requirements, not good enough, not going to do it for you. And he winds up putting in that type of performance against Manchester United. And I believe, you ready for this? Juan Foyt became the 89th Tottenham Hotspur, or ex-Tottenham Hotspur, to leave and win a title or win a championship. 89.
That is so cruel. That is bad. That is bad.
It saddens me.
89th.
Yeah.
Well, I did notice something too about the game. Like, United can't play with Scott McTominay and Fred. They need to get a 6 and play with Scott McTominay if they want to play with Scott. Because I get the feeling United fans want to keep Scott, and maybe getting Declan Rice and Scott McTominay.
Yeah.
6. They need a 6. They have 2 8s playing that position, and that midfield and the trio, the center back trio, Albiol in the middle. Paul Torres and Juan Foyt. That was a really good trio we saw in the Europa League final. It was a really good game too. Like, we got really good finals. We need that was really good. We saw good football.